There are some big changes coming to Path of Exile in the 3.28 Mirage League, including a massive change that involves the whole Atlas rework and a new endgame system, and depending on how this lands, endgame could feel a lot smoother and better for most players. So I'm going to break down everything that you need to know, both about the Mirage mechanic and the big Atlas changes that are coming. So what is Mirage? So Mirage is basically you open a portal and that copy that sort of area around it as well, and that includes any league mechanics. So very similar to Scourge in that sense, except it's not the whole map, it's just a part of the map that gets copied, as well as the league mechanics around it. Now they have said that they increased sort of the league mechanics chances to be around it, especially during the campaign. So you will get like double dipping on your essences, for example. So let's just say I have an essence next to the actual Mirage mechanic. That essence will be inside that Mirage zone as well as outside, so I can therefore do it twice. And the one inside usually will give me some sort of different reward. Like for example, the example they've given is there's a new essence that can drop specifically within Mirage if there's an essence inside a Mirage. That's one reason why you'd want to go in, right? But there's still more reasons why you'd want to do and engage with this mechanic. So before you go in the portal, you'll get a choice of 3 different choices, and these could be anything from juicing your map, player buffs or rewards, or some stuff around juicing that they've already shown. It's stuff like portal and wisdom scrolls that get found will instead turn into other currencies, or you could get another one which makes it so that some packs in the Mirage give you gold instead. There's other stuff that will be able to buff you in some sort of way temporary whilst you're in the Mirage. So like for example, in the video they've shown that you can get a temporary soul eater buff whilst you're in the Mirage area, or you can get another insane buff in the Mirage area where you cannot even die. So that's cool. And there'll also be some cool rewards, so you'll get special caches that will drop specific items or some extra rewards. And you'll also notice 3 different icons and 3 different colors under each of those rewards. Now what this means is mobs can drop specific coins based on these rewards. So for example, the sort of blue sigil can drop intellect coin, and what that will do is it will allow you to imbue your gem, so your intellect gem, a support gem that's imbued within that gem. Now it's important to note that you can only do this once on each item slot. For example, if I have a flame dash in my body armor, I can't then do it on another gem on my body armor. It'll have to be on a note that your gem does have to be level 20. This is more of a sort of end game mechanic or something that you're going to be doing later down the line. This has the potential to increase player power by quite a bit, especially if you get the exact support that you wanted or you need for your build. Now the reason why this league mechanic will feel very good even going into late end game mapping is because this scales well with your Atlas. If the choices are meaningful and you're not just doing the Mirage just to do it, you're gonna add extra layers to the other league mechanics that you were potentially doing. So for example, your ultimatums will have better rewards and you'll be able to do them more often. Overall, the Mirage League hits on 2 good things very well, and that's good scaling and good reward clarity. It will be a good league for people to spam for weeks and not feel bored like they did with probably 3.27 and the high stuff, etc. But if the choices feel solved or the best option is always obvious, it will probably become a bit of a chore. That's why we'll have to wait and see what happens after 1 or 2 weeks and see what kind of interesting decisions and choices people are making with their wishes, etc. And it plays really well with the new endgame, which is what we're going to be talking about now. And boy, is there a lot of big changes coming to the endgame. And let's just straight away talk about one of the biggest changes coming to maps, and that is maps no longer drop as specific layouts, they now drop as tiers. So now everything is a tiered map and you can run whichever maps you want in whatever order. So there's no such thing as a tier 10 Mesa map, for example, anymore. You'll now just get a tier 10 map and you'll choose whatever map you want to run on your Atlas with that map item. Now this is a massive change and something that's going to take players time to get used to, and it's also going to change a lot of target farming strategies, sustain, and how quickly you can chain what maps you are enjoying. So for example, if I like burial chambers a lot, I can just constantly spam run that and I don't have to worry about finding a P16 burial chambers map every single time or buying it from trade. So it should theoretically make most players feel freeing, as they can do whatever they want at any time. But on the flip side, it might end up making players feel like the progression has become too streamlined. So now what does that mean for favored maps? Well, favored maps are no longer going to be a thing anymore. So they're not going to exist, they're completely gone. And a bunch of the old map conversion tools don't matter in the same way. That also goes for other currency like Orb of Horizons and that sort of stuff that may have edited your maps, as well as chisels also getting removed. So it's a less of a burden for you to sort of try and find the exact map and the tier level that you want anymore. Now some players might like that as it removes frictions, but other players might hate it because it removes sort of that layer of planning that they so used to in this game. So now let's talk about the Atlas itself. Now the Atlas has changed physically quite a bit. Now you'll see there's 4 different quadrants that represent different regions within the Atlas, and each quadrant will have a Voidstone attached to it, which we'll discuss later on because there's quite a few changes in regards to Voidstones also. So you might be asking, so why is there 4 quadrants? Well, you can get different types of rewards from each of the different quadrants using these new Astrolabe items. So now these Astrolabes will come with different league mechanics attached to them. So for example, you get a Delirium Astrolabe or a Harvest specific Astrolabe. And once you place these items onto your Atlas, you'll get these shaped regions that appear. These will basically sort of juice up that mechanic, but also every single time you complete a map, you'll get extra rewards and extra added effect onto the next map that you keep doing. So once you get to that final map in that shaped region, you'll notice that it's extremely juiced, and this is kind of going to be your sort of new way of juicing, or at least some people's way of juicing and getting extra rewards from their maps. Now, the important thing to note and why there are 4 quadrants is in the end of a shaped region. So once you've completed every map and removed that shaped region area, you'll be able to go into the vault. Now the vault has specific reward types depending on what quadrant you are in. So for one specific quadrant, you might get a vault with only uniques, and another quadrant will have currencies only. So that's sort of the reason why there's 4 different quadrants and how they interact with the Astrolabes and how the shaped regions work. It's also important to note that you do not need to run all the different maps in that shaped region. There is a Atlas passive that will allow you to just run that one map over and over, and it will count as you completing a shaped region map every time you finish it. My overall thoughts are, I don't know how this is gonna end up being, whether it's gonna feel fun for the mapping arc, or will it just end up feel like another mandatory system that you can't really ignore if you want to get the most out of your maps. There will also still be memory threads, but these will now be itemized. So if you're unfamiliar with what memory threads are, they basically, you choose a place in the Atlas to place them in, and then you'll run your maps, and then that will lead to one of the 3 bosses in the end. Now once you have killed all 3 bosses, you'll get a Voidstone. And that brings me nicely onto what are the changes for Voidstones. So because of the sort of Atlas changes and the way maps are now, as they're not layout specific, Voidstones will be different in what they do now. So for example, you can get a Eldritch Voidstone, and that's going to have a 25% chance to have an additional upside and downside from Eldritch Inference type. It's also going to give you sort of higher tier maps, and it's also going to give you gold gets converted, but it also will give you a 0.4% chance to become a nightmare map for each sucked in Voidstone. So now let's get on to what nightmare maps are exactly. So T17s have officially been completely removed from the game, and they are now basically nightmare versions of tier 16s. They've also removed a bunch of the breaking modifiers that you sort of get. So 1 or 2 examples that they've shown is where your action speed is slowed each time you cast or use a spell, and also the one that prevents you from doing any damage at all for the next 4 seconds. And the idea that they want for these new nightmare maps is basically so you can kill the bosses, and it has a more focus on those bosses and getting those bosses and getting those uber fragments than it does on actually juicing sort of the entire map sort of stuff. Now obviously we do get juicing from other parts of the Atlas now, and we still have the originator T16.5 stuff. I think personally this is a great change because nobody really liked doing T17s and nobody liked those modifiers that were there, so I'm glad that they've at least addressed some of them and removed some of them, so they should help a lot. And the focus on the nightmare maps being mainly on the bosses and getting those uber fragments just feels way nicer. So if I want to go in and I want to juice map, I can go do the originator maps or the T16.5 stuff. But if I want to have a more focus on doing sort of uber bosses, I can go into these nightmare versions of T16s. And this is why I think Mirage is going to be bigger than we all thought, and sort of all the changes combined are going to be massive and change the way we sort of play, especially stuff with the Mirage mechanic itself and how it interacts with other mechanics, and also the massive Atlas changes that are coming. It's going to hit sort of every player, every build, every strategy that you might be considering beforehand. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and let me know what you're most excited for. Let me know what you're kind of skeptical of, what you're afraid of. I will definitely be doing another part explaining some of the other changes, because there's still more stuff with the exceptional support gems and new skills and ascendancy changes. But yeah, let me know if you guys want that also.